Welcome to the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. This podcast is for those who seek answers from above, guidance and magical inspiration.
Immerse yourself in the realms of magic, angels, fairies, unicorns, dragons, and so much more. I'm Kirsty Jandrell, and I'm delighted to be here with you today.
And I am Kate Lachman. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Angels, Magic and Joy podcast. And today with our very, very special guest, and a special one, especially for me, I won't be hiding here, Kathleen Dutton. Thank you so much for joining us today, Kathleen. We're absolutely delighted and honored. And there is also a special occasion around you being here, but we're going to come back to it. Kathleen, you're a true polymath, a professional artist, illustrator, creative director, musician, peace advocate, and an author of recently published book, The Stories That Wrote Themselves. And we're going to come back to the book in a moment. But before we dive into this exciting topic, for those who are maybe not familiar with your work, Kathleen, could you give us, a few words about yourself and maybe about your background as well? Because I find that quite interesting as well. Your change over life.
Okay, yeah, I went through quite a big change. And when I started off, I always knew I was creative, and I always had these kind of crazy dreams since I was a kid. But initially, I went into design, and I worked. I love design and art, creating it. So literally, I did went into a foundation course and then did a degree in design, and was really into design, and I still am. I still very much love design. And then I just kept studying, went on to do like masters. I actually even was part of the PhD program as well for the anthropology of Chinese characters. So I studied the ancient Chinese characters as well. So I had this kind of real burning curiosity, mostly about uncoding visual language. And that also meant learning. I used to kind of, and I still do this, whatever I'm studying, I turn it into a project. So when I was studying, I lived in Hong Kong for 11 years. I worked for a design company, and also was a lecturer in a university, which, specialised in design. But a lot of things that were to do with like the ancient cultures, like anthropology of ancient Chinese characters, but also the Mayan characters. And I did studies of those sorts of things, but I really also into environmental projects and worked on a number of those. We're collaborating with different universities around the world as well when I was became a lecturer. So when I was doing design, I was working with the themes that I would work with now. But in that time, I was much more like looking at it as facts. Whereas now, it's almost it's like the Magician's Apprentice, in the little animation, where 1 minute all the things are just lying there, tools for cleaning, and and in that room, and then all of a sudden the whole room comes alive, and you're like, actually, these are tools to be used, and this is kind of it's knowledge that can be inhabited through experience. So that's kind of the route that I came in. And I worked for a design company, Conrad Design Group, for a long time as well. And it's interesting because we just had a reunion, and actually those people just like really, when I first went to, I went from London to Hong Kong, and then I ended up staying in Southeast Asia for 11 years. worked all over Asia and had an exhibition in Japan about the ancient Chinese characters. So that's why I'm saying it's like a bit like now when I'm explaining things, my brain goes in tangential directions, and which just leads me to explore things. I mean, it's quite hard for me to always, explain what I'm doing to other people. So I just do things visually because I don't even understand things myself until I've done it visually. It's still the dry facts. It's like somehow, as soon as I inhabit that process of drawing, something changes. This alchemical kind of change of my whole understanding and connection. So, so I went through that, a big change. So it's like much more in that sort of, it's corporate and academic kind of area now. And now I don't do anything really like that, although I do connect with those people and that world still. And the people that I knew from that time have all kind of really brilliant, actually. Some people say, oh, they had to leave those people behind, but luckily, people in Asia, I just felt, and especially in Hong Kong, I've got a lot of soul family there, and Japan as well. So yeah, I mean, I went last year, and I sort of just have this very strong connection. It feels like home to me, which is kind of weird because it's not my home. So yeah, I mean, but now I'm in this new world. One new world. Da, 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 da. Where it's like dreams every night, and it's like all the training that I had over years as an academic and as a designer give me the perfect tools to record things at speed, which in the beginning it really it took time to develop those skills, because I'm connecting with like dreams. I would wake up and be like, oh wow, that was so beautiful, that story. And you go to try and record it, and even though I'm a designer and I've been trained from a dream, that's not so easy. Or even when you sort of get in the beginning, I would just get impressions of, usually I see things in sequences. So if I see Mary Magdalene and Joshua, I would see them come together, and they would be walking somewhere, and then they would like hand me something. It would be, and then they would move from landscape to landscape. When I first had all of these things, I was kind of very freaked out about how do I capture it, because I did feel I needed to capture it, because I kept having people really randomly come up to me and say things like, oh, you need to sort of start writing, either you need to start writing. I went to Glastonbury. I mean, I've just tell so many stories that I could just bore you. But it was like, and I didn't like writing at that time because I'd been so like, oh, I just thought of it like the university, writing boring, like dry facts about stuff. I just didn't fancy doing it. I just wanted to be free. They wouldn't write every day. That's what I was. No. To me, it was like yuck, torture. That sounds like horrible. Something I don't really fancy doing. But now I do it every day. So just goes to show things can change.
Oh, what an amazing story. Thank you, Kathleen, for sharing just a tiny bit, I'm sure, of all your amazing sort of background. And I just wanted to, well, Kate and I wanted to congratulate you on your first picture fiction book, which is just about to be released, and you have to have a coffee there. And we know how much love and
effort and light has been poured into that. So we're so proud of you for you. And it's entitled The Stories That Wrote Themselves. And if I can just describe, I love this description that you give of the book. It's just beautiful. Makes me want to read it straight away. You describe it as a cosmic romp through the dreamlands where singing unicorns and dragons rub shoulders with artists, scientists, ascended masters, and a galactic fairy. So straight away I was like hooked. So
welcome to my world.
Thank you. Well, I'm so happy to be there. Could you just describe I know you've talked a little bit about dreams. Can you talk about the inspiration for the book, Kathleen, please, and tell us a little bit more, because it's just just sounds so magical.
Well, the inspiration was a consistent practice. It was like a daily practice where, I mean, this is important, which I haven't said. When I was in my 20s, because I used to be away with the fairies a lot, I had to learn something which grounded me. And so I learned Qigong, and I do Qigong and I do meditation every day. And I've done it since I was in my 20s. Qigong I learned when I was in Southeast Asia. So it's always when I was doing meditation or in the dream space, all of a sudden I would get these stories, and I've actually pretty much had it my whole life. But sometimes I was like running away from it. Sometimes I was running towards it. Now just totally accept it. But these stories would come in, and they happened at a time when I was going through what may have seemed like the end of things. You know, like some of my friends were like, oh gosh, Kathy, I'm really, you know, my life just seemed to be falling to bits in lots of different ways. So then at the same time I started to have these like some dreams, and they're vivid, so vivid and so beautiful. And they were always about all these different characters that come together. I mean, they evolve over time in the dream space for me. So like the unicorn was a baby. It was pre-baby. And in the dream, so I would every night I'd be like, oh my, it was like the Harry Potter books. I thought, oh my gosh, what's going to happen next? Have they really given me that unicorn to look after, you know, in the dream realm? Better go have a look, check on it. Felt like a Tamagotchi. If I didn't look after it, something would happen. So it was like, let's say the unicorn, like, was actually the first thing that came, and it was like a unicorn baby, and I had to look after it. And I remember telling the story because I did actually work with children at that time, and also in our local community. I'd actually done drawings and told the story about this unicorn. People, that's just an adorable story. And I was like, it's my dream. And they were like, really? That was your dream? So the unicorn grows up, and it has energy that it brings within me. I realized that each of these things was the guides that were growing within me. I also did meditation. I did Raja yoga. And people were saying around this time, oh, something's really changed about you. It's like your energy it really has different. It's different. And I felt like, so first of all, the unicorns brought this sort of, the unicorn energy, you know, it's like brings purity and and playfulness. But you know, like when you look at the British flag, the unicorn is used in that, and it's tethered. And I feel like it's the spiritual aspect of the culture, and you can see why people behave in the way that they behave. When you tether your spiritual power and the purity, it's the root of who we are as souls, as beings. So for me, that connection, coming back into that, but also sharing it. Even at that time, I was sharing it, even though I didn't understand how deep this was going to go. Unicorn got bigger and bigger and bigger. Then it was fully grown. And the unicorn actually was like saying, there's a dragon and it's in Glastonbury. And I was like, I'm starting to get used to my dreams now. So, sorry. They went to Glastonbury and literally saw this huge, it's like, yeah, it's what they call it, a dragon's egg, but it's and it's out of rock. It's a real thing. And I sat with it for a while. It's actually a rock formation, and people do go there and they sit down to connect with the dragon energy in the tour, and because it's actually off on the side of it. And then basically from that day, the dreams changed, and all of a sudden the unicorn, so the birth of purity allowed me to give birth to actual power, which is to do with not domination or control, is to do with acceptance, with love, with compassion. And only this power would allow the birth of the dragon. This makes me English. But I was always going to be this person that was, and I literally did feel like I was in a Harry Potter movie at one point, because people were coming up to me and saying to me things like, oh, you are to do with this dragon, and you're a keeper of certain knowledge and keys, all different places at different times. And I was like, but I don't feel like I am a keeper actually of anything. I just feel like, yeah, I mean, I'm just a person who's having extraordinary dreams, luckily learning how to write them. So first of all, it was like my own life changed in terms of purity. So, becoming how I eat, becoming vegetarian. I was already a vegetarian, but I was called to change more aspects of my diet. And purity is actually to do with also, when you look at other people, it's not like you're trying to look at them with pure eyes. When you get this, can move into that energy, it's soul sovereignty, and which I talk about in this book. Sorry, I keep coughing, but soul sovereignty, and the 8 powers, like we have powers that can be activated when we connect with purity, like the ability to just discern. We can only discern when we're connected to our own power. If our power is peaceful, we can discern well. If our power is born of fear, we're going to make a bad judgment. So when we have, that connection to purity and source energy, we can make the choices as well. We have the power to choose, because so we have discernment, we have a real sort of not just discernment and the ability to decide. These are soul powers, I mean, which I also learned as part of Raja Yoga. But when you do this work, this is soul sovereignty, and this is what I was told is this new soul blueprint. It's each person. It's not just the queen that gets the crown. We all get one, and in it, it's like we become soul sovereign beings. And that sounds really fancy pants, but it's not. It's like, really, all it is how you were as a child, when you trusted everyone and you loved everyone, and you were really ready to give everyone a chance. animals. You know, you would never have eaten an animal. If somebody told you that's an animal, you're going to eat that. You know, kids don't want to do it. None. But, you know, it's like, so I think it's a return to that sort of connecting with the inner child, and also, you know, which is helping us into the pathway of purity. So, I mean, these whole things that, you know, it sounds complicated as I'm explaining it, but it wasn't, because there's a side of me that's really silly and playful. So I remember during this little dragon baby, I'm actually going to make these into cards.
That's gorgeous.
That was drawn in when I still lived in London, in Belgium. I remember showing it to my friend Loretta. She's a lovely Irish lady and a healer, and I was like, ugh. Wow, I saw this in so much detail, and it's like, it seems to be growing up. And she was like, oh my God, Kathleen, doing it. Well, she said, your dreams are like absolutely crazy. And I was like, I know. And it's like, and there's another, it's like, and it's continuing. But yeah, so I mean, I tried to, I mean, these actually are from, but you can't really see it on here, but these are really big sketchbooks. I'll just show a little bit, but you know, where there's some pages where it's a mixture of small sketchbooks and the very odd, very huge one. And I do want to do some big books. Because the scale, like I've got 3 sizes. I've got the size that I always have, and that's why I wanted that to be the first thing I did. It connects us with, you know, so the 3 sizes, this is like the everyday walkabout thing. Oh, my computer lit up. This is when, yeah, we like that. And then I've got a second size, which is just a bit bigger, like 8'4". And then I've got a really super duper big size. Don't know if I've got any of those around. And they're all in the other room. I've got literally about 100 of them, maybe more, because I've been doing it my whole life. I mean, everyone, now I've learned everything that I've learned. Sorry, I mean, here's like, they're everywhere. And they've all got different bits of this story. And now I'm realizing, retrospectively, because I've always been doing them, I couldn't understand my own work. I used to say this to people, and they used to say, how can you not understand? I don't. That's why I study all the time, because, and it would turn out I was dreaming like an ancient language, and then I thought, oh, that means that I should study it. So, for instance, I've got these big ones. I don't know if you can see. This is the sun and the moon, the birth of the yin, the uniting of the masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
A lot of my work, even I had an exhibition in Tokyo, which is called Female. I knew the birth of the feminine was important for me, but also for the world, you know, in a way, not like in an egotistical, oh, the female is important. It's like the feminine is such an important part of like our own ability, whether we're man or a woman, to nurture. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of these, I use ancient characters, but make them modern and explain stories through them. I mean, as I say, this is like one, but I literally got hundreds. I say hundreds, must be hundreds. The little sketchbooks, I've probably got thousands, because you think I go through the, like, to me, they're like, if I don't understand something, I just start to put it down. And I've got better at being a scribe. So after that detour,
beautiful detour, thank you.
I'm tangential. See, the names here, my brain works. I'm here, there, and all the places. But then there was the birth of the dragon, which was, as I say, had to be born of purity. And then I saw the dragon, and just saw the big dragon. But the thing about the dragon was that when the dragon came into being, I actually had the purity of the unicorn, which helped the birth. So it was even there at birth. So, and the unicorn sort of, I got drawings in another huge sketchbook of that whole thing, and I didn't realize that would be so important. I might actually end up doing a book on that on its own, because I've got so many drawings of that and little stories within that as well. And they really lifted my spirits at the time, because I was quite nomadic and having a really, on the earth plane, my life was crazy, but I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen. When I went to sleep, it was like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen now? And then in the lockdown, I ended up staying in Essex with my parents, and in that time there was it was born, the dragon, and so the unicorn, the dragon energy came together, and they were both the same size in the sort of frequency. It's like you like be supported, and in that there was this extraordinary birth. So, and the dragon, a bit like in Chinese culture, the dragon, I did qigong, so the energy idea of bringing that energy, dragon energy, through movement, through sound, and as a kind of activation, but as a painting as well. And it's like it needed to be sort of spoken into being, it needed to be drawn into being. Its form, all came together. And at that time, I was in, as you said, my parents are just closing my eyes, but yeah. So I mean, at that time, I was in Essex, is the lockdown, and it was like quite an extraordinary time, because then I spent most of my time in the garden, which meant I just felt really connected with nature the whole time, and the birds and the whole garden. As soon as I used to go into it, I literally felt like I was fairy tale, sorry. But as I went in, they would all the birds would start to sing, and there was like I really felt connected with the nature in that time, more than I had been for such a long time, because I'd lived in London. And watching nature, becoming an observer. And during that time, I used to do a project which, using the idea of fairies and taking people on a trail. It was actually for children in need, and it was the three. I've got the idea was, whether you lived in a small place or a big place, you just picked three things, and you actually went on a little walk, and whatever three things you found from the garden, and if you didn't have a garden, from even like a little concrete space, there's things you find, you bring them three things together and you tell a story about them. So that was for children during that time, and apparently it was like something that was really needed. I needed to be connected to nature. I think we all realized it's such an important thing. So the stories started to kind of, there was like as soon as I went to Essex and connected with that garden, I started to sort of do more and more of my, whatever I do, whatever I'm learning. So I was obviously learning how to do that, tell the stories about nature, and from what I found, that's why I'm sharing that. And this book is what I'm learning, so I do what I'm learning, and I move through it. So how to not study, dragon energy academically is like, be it. How do you embody it? How do you bring this energy into your life? How do you be purity? What is purity really? I mean, and a lot of the stories, you know, so there's a, you know, there's a galactic fairy as well. She makes a wish, but she also learns some really cool lessons. And, you know, the stories, I mean, now it's so weird for me to be looking at, it's like the edit, undo, and create anew. I remember I woke up one night, edit, undo, and start anew. This is normally what happens. And now seeing it in pages, it was so weird. I'm going to say another thing that's a slight tangential. You'll get used to this, but it's like I never dreamt to the moment that I would actually hold the book. I literally dreamt the stories, and you know, I wasn't sure about sharing it at all because I just thought I'm not sure. But literally in the end, it was like I was pushed into it by, you know, dreams gently. It's not like I was pushed, forced, horrible. No, it was like I was given the confidence, story by story. It's if these stories have changed you, they can change other people. And there's a lot more of them. This is like, how much? This is maybe a fifth, a fourth. There's so many more. There's, I don't even know how many stories there is. At one point, I remember there's a lady, I've got a really good friend here called Mim, and I was like, I have no idea where to begin because there's too many stories now. I should have started years ago because there's like, where am I going to begin? So, and then I literally went into my dream and said, you just have to like pull what were the first key stories, like to summarize a particular time. And then each of these stories is its own story. So where there's only one picture for that story, in actual fact, there's 20 or 30. I mean, there's a movie. Each one, there's so many. Because obviously, as an artist and designer, that's kind of what I do. So there is so many, and these books, and so this is my latest. My guidance is that each of the short stories is taken, and actually I fill the rest of the images, and whereas at the moment it's just like got the one picture or two. Well, no, there's more than that. I mean, there's pictures. It's too hard to show you here, but there's this like the dragon and the unicorn energy coming together, and it's like in a beautiful violet sky. And it was a very celestial sky that I kind of saw this all happen. And then, like, it was like I would have a dream of stuff like that, like the unicorn, the dragon coming together. And then I would go out for a walk and the clouds would form into that. And I would take a photo in the lockdown. People would think I was creating digital images of these things. They'd be like, oh, how are you doing that? And I was like, it's not. I didn't even want to get into an explanation because I was still in my sort of transition into the madness of the world. I was entering of the alchemy of it. That even things like the water, after doing meditation of like the dragon, I'd go and take a picture of the water and it would form and it would look like dragon. I mean, and I didn't even notice all of it straight away. You know, I would share things and people were like, oh, it doesn't look a bit like a dragon. I mean, it really is like a dragon. And then, or sequences of images, and they would be like in this amazing, like energetic form which is, you know, it's a bit like that sort of the Japanese guy who did the can't think of his name right now. I just keep thinking of Yoji Yamamoto, which I really like his music. But no, there's another guy. He's did all of these things of water. Where water takes the impression of what you're creating within, and it could be done with words, with written words. I mean, there's a beautiful book which is now, I think bestseller many times over. I mean, it's been out for a long time. It's not new news, but how water particularly, is very receptive to energy and form. But I was, didn't feel that was something in me. Yeah, of course it's in every single person. At that time, I'd done a meditation with a group. We've been focusing on Mother Mary, and I went to my mum's pond, which is all icy, took photos, and there was a picture, like the ice looked like Mother Mary. So it's like, and I didn't even notice it myself. My mum should be co-author of my life. She always notices everything. She's like, that looks like Mother Mary. And I was like, oh, right. She came up with the idea for the book, Stories That Wrote Themselves, because I was telling her my dreams, and she was like, oh, God, Stories That Wrote Themselves, because that's how it sort of came. And then, yeah, my mum often sees things like she actually has Mary Magdalene's birthday, so my mum is a very special soul. She often comes in just at the right moment, and she says something, and it seems so small to her, and I'm like, that really, I would never have thought of that in a million years. It's like I might say, oh, these stories wrote themselves. My mum said, that's a great name for the book, sort of thing. But no, I said, yeah, this story wrote itself, and that's what it was called originally, the story that wrote itself. But it became the stories because there's lots of them. Yeah, so I'm aware that I am sort of jibber-jabbering about this book. My mum, meditation, and how things seem to come into form through meditation. And as I share things every day, I started to realize how much, when we do meditation, but also when we go with a group as well, it's how powerful things are. But I do feel this book changed my way of thinking. It's actually got something that's called, a soul, the gift of divine timing, and where all the souls come together, not just from this galaxy and this planet and other universes. It's like all the ancestors, indigenous people, every kind of being and especially lots of children coming into the planet right now. There's like who are coming to assist as souls that are more evolved souls than us. But it was like all of this was happening in the astral realm. And even now, when I go to sleep, I'm just like, the story has moved on, and now it's like about this, like all these children who are coming into the planet, and I've met all these different children. I've been meeting them and drawing them as they come in, and they all different, every different race. Some of them actually come in the form like they're coming as refugees. I literally dreamt a child. This is my life. I dreamt a child in this, and woke up and went and saw this child was like, I'm going to be actually coming as a refugee, but I'm actually going to be literally, my soul mission is going to be to actually really create and invent in this child. And then I literally that day went to the museum here, and I met that child exactly as I'd drawn him. This happens to me a lot now. And he was a refugee. And he was actually working on a project, like not as running it, but he was a child who was actually one of the children that was did art within this project in a place called First Sight here. And it was like tapestries of refugees, but also the art of refugees. So incredible child, you know. So I ended up meeting that child. I didn't tell him a dream because I might don't want to freak him out. I've got used to don't just tell certain things about this stuff to people. But I've had other children come, and I've actually seen them in that instance, and maybe I needed to see that first so that I knew it wasn't just another, oh, these are real sort of children that are coming into the earth plane. And each one with very different stories, but they're much more evolved consciousness. They actually come to hold a blueprint, a new soul blueprint for the planet, which is to do with, you know, they bring, their frequency is of kind of soul sovereign energy, and they just have this vibration that's higher. But each child is actually very important in sense of, as they come, they bring obviously frequency, and they, you know, bring it, and they're still coming, but a lot of them are already here, but they're children who are incredibly powerful souls, and they're all over the world. Yeah. So that's what the dreams that I'm getting now. So I'm still writing and trying to follow that story, but I've got quite a lot of these children now that have come, you know, and sort of introduce themselves. Welcome to my world.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so beautiful. Oh, you've taken us on a real journey already. So
A cosmic
wait to
romp.
dive into the book.
It is a cosmic romp, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Kathleen, when we've met and you've showed us that as well before we started, your beautiful folder, and apart from the illustrations and the book, there's something else in the folder. And I'm really, because I've seen it already, but would you like to share what is it all about?
Well, this is my pledge to the next 7 generations. Guidance if you need it. Basically, it's for us to dream a new future together, and that part of that is to create a pledge. So what happens, I've got lots more pledges that are not rumpled up. This one is important and it's very nice, and but these pledges I actually designed and working with Met Shabana, and she and I were both working on similar things, but I very much visual, and she was working with John, and they were working with businesses. But I was like working more with like schools and children, and doing the world we want to see. You know, I did a project like the Yellow Beach Heart, humble things where people will come. Yeah. So I was embodying the idea of like sharing these pledges, but I was sort of drawn to shop, and we actually decided, I got together and went to Chester, and John was there. We actually did some brainstorming together, and actually decided to launch it as a kind of as a thing, like where we go around, you know, design it really, you know, nicely, which we've done in the form of the pledge. So, you know, and the pledge is about yeah. Oh, I thought I had some guidance if you need it. Think about what you're writing Is this a pledge for your children, your grandchildren, or children or future generations? What world do you want to create 300 years from now? Take time to visualize it. Allow yourself to feel what it's like. If you jumped into the present time and put your hands on your heart and breathe into your heart and visualize. So basically, take them on a little journey where you go into and you kind of guide them, whether, you know, everyone, doesn't matter who they are, can do this. You know, it's like you're just closing your eyes, you're actually creating, even if people can't see, if they're not, you know, not visual, you know, they can sort of just see how they feel within their body when they decide that they're making a commitment to the planet. What would that commitment look like? You know, sort of if you were making a commitment to your inner child and the generations of the future. It kind of makes it simple when it's to your inner child as well as to the children of the future, rather than you know, we'll save the earth, blah blah blah. But we actually took in here about the Mother Earth delegation as well, because Shabana had actually been worked with them, and she'd been moved by them, and then basically you know, working with Indigenous people around the world. And I also always kind of have this also really strong connection with the Indigenous cultures because of my own travels, but also in the world and astral. So we were asking people to make a pledge for their own, in the name of their inner child, in the pledge. And this is for them, you know, this is the pledge, and people signed it. And actually, when I first met Shob, she was gathering pledges. It was in Wales. We were actually, I think it was, they would be in a big healing circle, and I actually was there with a couple of other friends, and we've been doing a walk of like sacred places. Net shop in Wales, and at that time, you know, it was all kind of really rough paper, and I wrote my pledge, and my pledge was in honor of my inner child and also the children of the future at that time. And then my brain shifted. Like, as soon as I wrote it, which is true, writing really does shift you. I was just like, okay, I'm going to help them to do the design because I'm a designer. It won't take me that long, but so I can put, like, change some of the things that they were saying. Like, or maybe by working together, we can actually sort of change things together through, you know, just making it more visually coherent, because it's such a good idea. But if it's like all on scrappy paper, nobody's going to be able to see it. And I mean, the same with this book, you know, if it stayed scrappy paper in my thing, in my cupboard, which was an option, you know, people wouldn't see it. And so, you know, my design skills have come in, you know, well, but doing things like the design. And actually I did the illustration. I mean, I've actually got better pictures of it, but it started, John did a tree, which with felt tip, and then I turned it upside down and just turned it all into like a birth canal. And we had an amazing couple of days of like ceremony that created the vibration that created this. That co-creation of like, and it was three of us, and I feel 3 was quite a capitalistic number, which quickly expanded. But it's like I felt like the root was each one of us is just so different. Like Shabana is very different to me. John energetically was so different. I actually drew our different energies and how they combined as well, which actually is also this drawing. But it's also, you know, there's something about people co-creating more at this time. Death of the Lone Wolf, all of that. I mean, so it's like, but also we need to, you know, it's in working with other people, sometimes it might feel out of our comfort zone, but it's often those people where we might feel called, oh, you know, they whatever their design, if it's a, you know, social enterprise or a charity or something, where we could actually just give us our skill for not even long, we could actually really shift things for them and for us, because, you know, that's kind of how it happened really. And then we, after doing all of this kind of the ceremony, there's the practical stuff as well, and then going to elements, but we'd already done a circle in with children and adults in Chester, of the pledge, and got some beautiful videos of like children just always steal the show because they say the most authentic things, because they are authentic, and the adults are all like, oh my goodness, that kid just said it. You know, it's like, one child, you know, said, I make a pledge to my own purity, no prompts, you know, and to be, you know, literally, you know, and to be the change that I want to see in the world. But they didn't say it, they said it better than that. And you know, that they're making a commitment to the earth. And it's like these pledges are, I mean, I do talk about the in the book. I actually it's called The Gift, the Manifesto, and we did read a bit of that. Unitary Planetary Manifesto, dreamt that, and I literally there's a whole lot of stuff about this. So to create solutions, we need to decide what our objectives are. Where do we start? Each one of us has a soul, has many inherent qualities and numerous roles. Although, as we realize that we are not the roles, we are our skin, we are not a country, we are, at the deepest level, concentrated light in a physical body. What if, in coming together and sharing our dreams and the unique aspects and talents that actually bring the solutions, not just for ourselves, but for the planet? What if it's about those people that are most different to us, that we honor and make space for them? There is the gift.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
That's the key to the kingdom. This is the key to the kingdom. When people can honor their brothers and sisters for their differences. As a soul, as a mother, as a teacher, as a student, as a creative person, during this time as designer, there feels that this is a time that there's a call to action, to create a design brief in the spiritual. It's not like in the old days. We can actually create a container for shaping solutions for humanity and earth. And it involves bringing together the diverse people in the form of circles and talents and many different skills, from world leaders to environmental specialists, scientists, and multidisciplinary fields. And it's the diverse spectrum, along with the indigenous peoples and their knowledge and culture as well, that bring a new blueprint for this planet. And this is an open call to action, in particular including young people and the generation of youth who are highly adept living in this new chapter of Earth. They've been prepared for it for their eons. And now that they are here, it makes it easier for us to do what needs to be done. Anyway, there's a lot more. There's a lot of stuff that came to about this soul blueprint, and how we embody it. And this is like, so again, it's not just it's the spiritual, but it's also the practical as well. Sort of, how do we marry that? So that's like not a story, but it's like at the end, because that was, I literally dreamt. You need to add that at the end, otherwise. I mean, all the other stories in some ways are leading up to that, and it's also got the pledge that I did, the pledge to my inner child and the children of the future. That was very catalyst, you know, that pledge. Can I just read my pledge? I signed a pledge to the next 7 generations, created by Planet Matters by Sharp, and during an event in Wales. And the pledge was, in the name of my inner child, my daughter, nieces and nephew, and all the children of the future, I commit to a world where there is enough love, there is enough time and peace to hold a vision of a world that you would want to live in, that I would want to live in, and to create whatever needs to be within myself first, so that that can happen. Oh, there's a bit more. I accept this with all my heart and soul, to collaborate with others, to bring the power of peace and balance to this earth. I hear the call in this country of England. During the course of this year, the project will be evolving. Watch this space. And it has like evolved. I mean, working a lot with schools and young people, but we've done the circle in different places. And doing the pledge really affects people. Doing the pledge helped me to define exactly what it was within myself. So, you know, meeting shop was such an important thing. You know, as we all meet each other, it's it could be the reason, the season, or a lifetime. We don't know. But I think, especially where, you know, there's something, I think whether it's the magnetism of love that draws you towards somebody and a similar vision, or sometimes it may actually be the like resistance of like where there's a conflict, and I feel that then that's a place to be drawn in. You know, I mean, actually, when I had a couple of experiences where, you know, was kind of attacked, and in very odd situations at sometimes, but also, you know, and it's like an opportunity for me to go in and clear my own energy, and or, you know, having some very weird things like, you know, that kind of can't seem to come up in the world. But it's like when we realize that the external world, you know, is where we were in the past, and we can release that, we can accept other people for their betrayals, for the role that they needed to make, the role that they needed to play. Believe me, we were probably in that role at some point, either in this life or other lives. You know, it's like we are multidimensional, so we've all embodied every kind of energy. I mean, so I think the more we can accept each other and move into that forgiveness, actually allows us to be who we need to be, and allow others to be who they are, not need to. We can work together to change ideas, but we can't change other people. And you know, that's a very important thing that we need to learn on this planet. And even though we say we're very evolved, that's one of the main things that people are fighting about, trying to change other people. You can't change it. But what if it needs the Buddhists, the monks, the Jews, the African indigenous, the indigenous from all the different tribes, you know, the Aboriginals in Australia and the New Zealand Maoris, as well as the Chinese and all the other. What if it took everybody, all the different people? It's not like just in our culture where the knowledge and the power is. It's about actually understanding other cultures. And the fact, even retelling history is going to be important, I feel, because the history that we have, there's a lot of inaccuracy, but also, you know, is based on things like, you know, domination, and really, no, there is, I think, feel like looking at it through values, changing systems is all important. And this is all important to me. This is all one thing. The systems that we have, we accept as normal. Start saying no. I think we need to start saying no to the systems that do not work, start moving towards the ones that don't. Of course, it's going to be uncomfortable. But, you know, there's things that we can get comfortable with that do not serve anymore. And I think one of the best things that come out of conflict and difficulty in my own life is learning how to stand your ground peacefully, becoming detached observer in a situation, using the I am presence, you know, that we are all, you know, we all have that I am presence, that we can be self-sovereign, pull away from the drama, pull into our own authentic truth, which is guided, which is not one person special against it. We all have this divine spark. And then if you see it in another, if you see it in yourself, you can see it in another. And actually you can bring through this, I really believe in the beginnings of, you know, healing greatest conflicts. And I mean, for instance, the Maori culture and how they have, you know, the idea of reciprocity, and you come together and people take responsibility for what they've, if they've done a crime or they've done something against another person, they actually take some like responsibility for it. This like, it's like you, it's not just physical, it's actually a sort of spiritual thing. So we can learn from so many cultures, and actually that's what I believe, that's kind of what it's going to take. So
Oh, Kathleen, thank you so much. There's so much. We could be here all week, I think. It's such a beautiful vessel of wisdom and love and peace. You know, we feel that just through your frequency there talking. So thank you for talking into so many important topics that are so pertinent today, as you know, in this moment, and using the book to bring all of those together. It's beautiful. So thank you so much.
Remember, it's they wrote themselves, because I really feel
Yes.
that it was like,
We're pulling
the time I was like, no. It was like, push a little tiny bit each day, be happy about some small things, and change into, it's so easy to, you know, as when I became like committed to, and I married the earth, which I talk about in the book. I married the earth. I made a commitment to God. So I've got 2 marriages which are kind of more divinely orchestrated, and they last for lifetimes and will never let me down.
Oh, that's beautiful. So Kathleen, how can people, what is the best way for people, firstly, to be able to contact you to purchase the book, and also to sort of engage? I was also keen to understand whether we people can access the pledge and make that sort of in their own space, or is that something that needs to be held within ceremony and that sort of thing?
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, maybe at the moment it can be done in it. That's where it's come through doing it through ceremony. But you know, I'm doing it with schools and with young people now. So we were talking about putting on the website of Planet Matters and shops. I mean, maybe I'll just try to literally find an easy way for other people to access it. Talk to those guys, see what they feel is the easiest way to do that. Because, you know, probably just doing a PDF, create a PDF, and I could just put it on my website, and they could put it on their website. We can just make it available to different people. And the book, it actually on my YouTube is it's got all my links to. I also do music as well, which also wrote itself. It's the same thing as I was doing about this song. So, and they're all about the same thing. They're all about my commitment to my faith, and to, you know, it's a love story of that comes together through, you know, the divine love. And on my website there's actually there is the link through to the book on my website, and it talks about the book a little bit there. On my YouTube there's a link as well, but interestingly someone else literally randomly called the stories that wrote themselves, which I didn't believe, around just before me. Or this around this few days difference, but it's about as different as, I mean, it's like reflections of someone in America. But otherwise, Google the stories that wrote themselves is on Amazon. It will be at different bookshops. I mean, you know, eventually, but at the moment it's Amazon, and you can get it as, I mean, I recommend getting it as a book because I believe the physical makes a huge difference. I mean, I wish I could just give it to people, but it took me years. And I can't do it. So,
are you planning to travel, you know, to share the book? Because this is something I would really to. Is there any plans? Because of course all the links we're going to put in the show notes, so it's going to be very easy to find. Are you planning, just before we finish, are you planning to, you know, travel and share, you know, physically? Because this is, you know, that would be something so special. Are there any plans of traveling, you know, physically getting the book from you and signing?
It's funny you say that, but I literally been getting that. I literally feel like there's another book that I made. This is what happens to me all the time, and it's called Let's Travel the World. But anyway, because I make these sorts of little books as well. Like I make these sort of books, but there was a book and it just came, Let's Travel the World, and I think that's what I need to do. I naturally can be quite reclusive in my not like how to use. I did cut my nails, but it's like I just can be like, as an artist, there's a side of me that really just likes to just be by myself and be creative. But I know I need to do a little bit of going and seeing people in the world and sharing the book. I'm going to do so, yes. So, and I've made a commitment to go to Ireland because it came through my dreams. So I'm actually going to be going in the spring. And I've also had guidance to, and I've actually already started to do this in orphanages as well. Some of the orphanages doing the story, reading it, because lots of people, especially young people, you know, enjoy the story, but also inner child, you know, inevitably is they enjoy it. So yes, I need to think about where, when, the whys and the wherefores, but I'd like to go to lots of beautiful places and share stories, but also I have also another story which is about these children, which is also needs to come into being. So it'll be about balancing that, like this the writing and the so it was good job that I met you guys at the Elements retreat, because
and that was a lovely story, because I think you mentioned that you will meet the dragon and the unicorn at the retreat, and then we've met. It was a fantastic story. I hope maybe we can continue, because now we're already, I think, over 1 hour, and I hope maybe you could visit us again, Kathleen, and you could share more, because there is so much more about you. We wanted to touch, upon the music, and I know there are more stories, so I hope it's going to be serious. So this is, maybe we can finish now, and this is going to be the end of the first part. And I
bless you.
Please come back.
And I hope, please.
I'll get all my stories out. Maybe I'll do, I like a storytelling. But I feel, especially the children, the children that are kind of coming through the new soul blueprint. And there's so much to say about them at work. I mean, but I'm not, so sharing links, all the love, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much.
And I can't wait to get a hold of
brilliant.
your book physically. And as you've mentioned, especially I find it with art, having it physically and really exploring, it's not just we read it from the beginning till the end. For me, this is the book that you always come back to. You always explore the images. It's like the deck of the cards, like you've mentioned. So I'm definitely getting mine one, and I hope I'm going to get it signed soon.
You are. And I'm going to do your little angel of yourself. Your angel or yourself. I usually just draw whatever comes through here.
Thank you so much for today, Kathleen, and thank you, Kirsty. Thank you so much for today, ladies, and I'm really, really looking forward to more stories and for you to share more, because I feel this is like the endless fountain of abundance of, those energies that are coming through, and we can never have enough of you, Kathleen. I could just
bless you
all day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies.
Absolutely beautiful, ladies. Thank you so much again.
A
million
so much luck with the book as well. May it just fly to whoever would love to receive its magic.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.